Well, the scream was I remember that morning very, very clearly. I told Macaulay, okay, you're going to put the shave lotion on, I don't forget, skin brace or whatever it was. And I said, you're going to put it on and go, ah, like something like that. Just.
I can't seem to find my toothbrush, so I'll pick one up when I go out today. Other than that, I'm in good shape.
Macaulay was such, he did have brilliant instinct comedically, even at that young age. He kept his hands glued to his face while he was screaming. So I yelled, cut, and the entire crew was doubled over laughing. It was the most unusual acting choice, but a choice that became somewhat iconic 30 years down the road. Hi, my name's Chris Columbus, and I'm the director of Home Alone. Working with Macaulay Culkin was wonderful. When we saw Mac's screen test, we knew he was a star. I mean, you had that inkling from his little scene he did with John Candy and Uncle Buck, but when he did the screen test for Kevin McAllister, he didn't look like a Hollywood sort of cutout children's character. He looked real. His ear was a little bent. He was immediately and intensely charming and funny. So to work with a kid like that, it was wonderful. My favorite scenes from Home Alone, the stunt scenes particularly are interesting because when we were shooting those in the middle of the night in Chicago, we had two stuntmen, and it was before CGI and before wires and all of that stuff. So these guys really had to do those stunts just with pads. And we would shoot some of these stunts, and I'd yell cut, and there was silence from the crew. And we were like, oh my God, is he dead? We didn't know. And I'd walk up, and the guy would jump to his feet. Do you want to do another one? We'd go back to the monitor, watch the stunt, and it was hilarious. But it needed to be treated with that kind of seriousness, I guess. But we were holding our breaths every time. We never had an accident. Nobody ever got hurt. But those stunts were my favorite sort of moments in the movie, particularly when you could see it with an audience. To see those scenes with an audience nearly falling out of their chairs with laughter is kind of a momentous occasion for a director. I think the paint can stunt on the stairs was probably the most challenging to film. Our stunt person was pretty high up on that staircase in the house, and then when the paint can not only had to hit him in the face, which was made out of rubber, but he had to send himself flying through the air and land on a floor that was a hardwood floor. Those were pretty painful. The other one was, they were all, to be honest with you, they were all pretty difficult and worrisome. Slipping down the stairs, flipping on the stairs, flying into the back of the house, slamming into the brick wall. All of those were pretty hair-raising.
What's your point?
My point is, you should call your son.
What if he won't talk to me?
At least you'll know. Then you can stop worrying about it. And you won't have to be afraid anymore.
Really, my favorite scene, aside from the stunts, is the scene in the church between Old Man Marley and Kevin. That, to me, is extraordinarily touching.
I don't care how mad I was, I'd talk to my dad, especially around the holidays.
I have a Christmas doormat in front of my door that says, "Keep the change, you filthy animal."
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
So, no, and a lot of people I heard recently, people like Seth Rogen and Chris Evans, up until, I guess, a few months ago or a few years ago, thought Angels with Filthy Souls was a real movie. And it's not. We shot it.
I'm going. 1, 2, 10.
Filming Home Alone was a particularly brutal shoot because it was, we didn't have enough money to build all the sets. So being outside in Chicago in February, in the middle of the night, before even ski jacket technology is as good as it is today, was just brutal. The cameras froze on us several times. We were shooting with film. So those nights were brutal. My favorite days of filming were when we were warm inside on a set. So every day was really kind of a joy to shoot Home Alone, even if you're dealing with brutal weather, it was always fun. Somebody would always make you laugh. And I think probably, if I have to nail it down to one day, a 24-hour day, it would be shooting with John Candy and Catherine O'Hara. We only had John Candy for one day.
I had a few hits a few years ago. That's why just polka, 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 polka. No?
The fact that he gave us one day and we used 23 hours of that day to get everything we needed with John was amazing, but he also improvised 80% of that performance. And just seeing John come up with new ideas, I was falling on the floor with laughing. He was just amazing.
I am trying to get home to my 8-year-old son. And now that I'm this close, you're telling me it's hopeless.
When we were casting the film, I was a big fan of Second City Television. So two of my idols on that show were John Candy and Catherine O'Hara. And Catherine O'Hara was someone who I was dying to work with. And again, I was interested in her comedic side, which she's shown to great brilliance in Creek. But I was also in love with her as an actor. And I wanted her to be able to tap into her emotion as an actor. Because even on Second City, the various roles she played, you just knew that there was a deep emotional complexity there. So I wanted to combine both of those.
Look, that house is the only reason we started working this block in the first place. Ever since I laid eyes on that house, I wanted it.
Who would have thought we would hire Joe Pesci for this kind of comedic role? I thought he would potentially say no. I knew Daniel Stern was very funny from films like Diner. But I knew Pesci was, by the way, Pesci is hilarious in Marty Scorsese's pictures, Goodfellas and Raging Bull, dark films, but he's hilarious. So when I asked him to do the movie, he said yes. I was stunned, and he was game for the comedy, and those two just had a tremendous chemistry. I think people love Home Alone because of a combination of two things. The comedy still works. It still makes it makes 50-year-olds laugh. But I think the comedy really still works. And I also think the emotional part of Home Alone is very emotional for people. When Marley reunites with his son and granddaughter at the end of the movie, it's just so incredibly touching. I think it just ties into the holiday season now.